Okay, let's get started.
Fantastic. Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock. I am your host, Christopher Mader, and proving once again that the Meat and Potato Show is nationwide. My guest today is calling all the way from Texas, Air Force Colonel Reid Reasor. He's going up against John Cornyn's seat, and I want to welcome Reid to the show. Reid, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, folks and patriots in America. It's very interesting to go out and see that there are a lot of very informed people that know what's going on in D.C., that are off of the mainstream news, that are digging up through places like Drudge Report and reading AP stories and newspapers and realizing that we have the District of Corruption is trying to destroy us. And it's nice to be with pictures. Thank you.
Reid, tell us about your career. You served under 4 presidents. Tell us about that. Tell us how you got started in that.
Well, thank you. Actually, my trip out of poverty, I was from Pennsylvania in the kind of engineering area manufacturing, and my trip out of kind of poverty was to go to the Air Force Academy. I just got blessed to go there. I graduated there with a bachelor's in astrophysics. Picked up a master's in technology in my 20-year Air Force career, and I got 2 years of doctoral studies under my belt in education, which was an eye-opener, and another year in social psychology. But mostly I spent 20 years going around the globe fighting. My first combat operation was under Ronald Reagan in 1987 in Nicaragua. I tell my liberal friends, I go, I miss the 80s where we used to do unspeakable violence to godless communists. And they kind of get really scared, and I go, well, it's okay. I lean back and cut my steak and have a beer and just watch the turbines unravel a little bit. But actually, what the summary is, I fought on 3 different continents on 4 different presidents, and when I came back to America, I realized this wasn't the country I left. The subversive force, being a student of communism and communist revolutionary doctrine, the people in the White House and the people in power are not stupid people. They're very smart. And what they're trying to accomplish is to overthrow our free markets and to control the communist society. And right now they're succeeding.
And they're as well trained in what they do as say we had a pro-military, pro-liberty type of government, they would be just as well trained in what they're doing to try to push their agenda. You're absolutely correct. Everything that we've ever heard about this entire administration being students of Alinsky, the whole progressivist agenda. I don't know if you ever read the book by Jonah Goldberg, Liberal Fascism. He spells out the entire 20th century history of how progressivism started in the late 1800s. It came into the communist movement all through fascism in Italy and Nazism, how it was adopted slowly here in the United States until we are at the point we're at now. And you make a great point. These guys were schooled in all of that.
It certainly were. And surprising to me, Christian, I've been in right-wing groups, patriot the whole time, and I said, I just want to go immerse myself into the left and see how they're thinking. I just want to process where they're coming from. And these people are passionate, they're informed, they're intelligent, and they believe they're right. I worked on a year of my doctoral studies at Berkeley in Texas, at Texas State University, and the very first thing my very first instructor said when I sat down, he stood up and said, I want you guys to know that George Washington is a slave owner, not implying he's a rapist and a murderer. And he went right down the entire liberal agenda, and I'm like, wait a minute, my PhD instructor of other PhDs just repeated exactly what my Soviet camp commandant said when we're going through our POW training, smacked a little box and saying, free market economists suppress the poor, you guys are colonialists, you're white supremacists. And I'm like, I'm listening to it, this is education in America. And then I backed up and realized that the education system is subverted. So much more out of this communist agenda. I think we got right now three major pillars of subversion, and that's media, bought and paid for, our academia, also bought and paid for, and our government. And right now, those 3 in that triad they're actually making very good success with the college kids.
Sure.
But they're failing the high school kids. The high school kids are graduating, those kids are going, I'm not buying into this. So I'm really excited about some young kids that are smart enough to look the writing on the wall and go, I'm not too much a big fan of control. We got a bunch of young libertarian and Tea Party guys saying, hey, we're not going to go for you telling me how to eat, think, drink. be sexually oriented. So.
It seems we're going to get into the outline here. Getting back to your military training, our government has mobilized the federalized police force, and virtually every agency now has some sort of tactical unit and the authority to conduct raids in a paramilitary style. Local communities take grant money, they purchase heavy vehicles, heavy weaponry, and upwards of 50,000 SWAT raids occur almost every year in the United States. And the innocent death toll is rising. How do we peel back this threat to our civil rights?
Well, my platform is pretty simple. The way to go back is through lawful conduct, and that means we need to go back to exactly what the Constitution says, who can equip the military. And the only people that can equip the military is Congress. So when we have an executive branch, such as the Department of Homeland Security, purchasing and being a military branch, that's an illegal move. So you have to make a definition of what is law enforcement and what is a paramilitary type thing. Even in Texas,
that's right.
They reconstituted the Texas Navy. I'm actually kind of a fan of putting boats up and down the river here, which they do, but these are huge gunboats with 6 machine gun turrets and outboard engines, and it is firepower. And I'm going, do you really need that much firepower to stop people swimming across and camping on farmers and ranchers' lands? No, you really don't need that paramilitary type of power. But what we need to realize is, and I agree right with exactly what Captain Richardson said. He's a young captain and saying every single military vehicle needs to be turned over to the Department of Defense immediately. And so there's 2 ways to force this lawful compliance. One is that people up in the Senate need to file petitions and motions when illegal action happens. So when Obama said, I'm going, and he did, he approached the United Nations and said, would you please take our guns? And that is an illegal action. So we need to immediately file an illegal action to him. And the United Nations Secretary General said, no, I'm not going to do it. It's against your own Constitution. It's against your Bill of Rights. It's an internal American issue. And so when we see illegal action, we need to have somebody, and this is my number one reason I'm furious with John Cornyn, is because he's not using his office to stand up and go, Obama, you are sitting on the United Nations Security Council. That's an illegal act.
Yes.
You are legally not allowed to do that. And then he needs to file a lawsuit. And if the illegality continues, then the only person that has the arrest capability of the District of Columbia is the Adjutant General. The Adjutant General only responds to civilian orders. So you have to make the petition, approach the Adjutant General, and go, look, we have this illegal activity against the Constitution. We now require force. And unfortunately, that has to happen at the federal level, and some have to be encouraged to do that. Now, John Cornyn won't do that because I think he's positioned himself for a vice presidency, and so he's kind of vacating the major duty of his office is to lead. And then the other side is the states. The states have to turn up, and you have to work with your attorney general, your governor, and your legislature to nullify. And every state has the exact constitutional responsibility to turn up and go, look, you are spying on our people in our state. You have fusion centers right here in Dallas and in Boston. And I guarantee down the road you have a fusion center. We need to do kind of what some of the California districts are doing. Turn the water off on these places. Turn the power off on these places and go, this is an illegal act, and each state needs to nullify it and go, you have violated the Constitution, not only the Constitution provisions, but the means to get you to violate the provisions are also illegal.
Now,
so we have people do what they want to do when they want to do it. There's 2 ways to stop it, up at the federal level and at the state level.
This is like you're military trained. This isn't a defensive tactic to keep us safe, or to even if there's a natural disaster or something, or like you said, gunboats patrolling the river to keep illegals out. But this is almost like they're building up for almost an invasion or some sort of. I mean, you're a military person. This isn't a defensive posture. This is an offensive posture, isn't it?
I was in a meeting last night, and I got up and spoke in front of about 400 folks up in Montgomery County, and I explained to them, I'm gonna read to you right now the conditions for the American, French, Puritan revolutions. Here they go. Ready? Yep. Economic soaring, then crashing, currency collapse, huge debt, government malfeasance, inappropriate and inept use of force. And I go, these are not stupid people. They are intentionally hurting us. And I didn't really think that was possible until I saw Obama order his own staff to hurt Americans. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. These guys mean it. They're going to do anything they can to achieve their end goals. And I think you're absolutely right that they are trying to set this country up for violent revolution. I mean, Let's look at something as simple as the Environmental Protection Agency, radical. Shut down a quarter of our economy and most of the economy that the Environmental Protection Agency shuts down hurts the cities because our cities are nodes of industrial commerce. So they're trying to generate this poverty. I mean, we have 72% dropout rate in high school in Detroit, 70% in Indianapolis, 70% in Baltimore, 60% in DC.
I love your YouTube clips. The numbers that you give are unbelievable on this. Continue, please, sir.
Yeah, so what I believe is truly happening, and I think I'm resonating with what you're saying, I actually believe that the left is intentionally trying to hurt people, put them down in the cities, and if African Americans listen right now, here's Reid Reasor's very frustrating part of this. No education, no job, no ownership. Yeah. That should be a 365-year-old formula back to the days of post-slavery to keep people down. And that's what our cities are. Every city in America voted for it.
I know.
I mean, the only reason Texas is red is because we have a rural economy out of the city.
And what kind of mind does it take to vote along all these party lines? They all go along with it, and I've always said that this is the most transparent administration we've ever had because we can clearly see that they're screwing us, and we let them do it, thus the transparency. But, I mean, what is the type of mindset? What happens to somebody when they get into Congress or into this administration or even into government? Less liberty, less rights, and less concern for the Constitution and how they're violating it.
Here's how I believe it happens, and as a student of violent history, I just praise God that we have people in the Air Force Academy and Military Academy saying this is how subversiveness works, and this is how you get to this point. And this is not new thinking. This is actually backward thinking. It goes all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans, and you have people in slave ships. And the thinking is, I'm smarter than you, Chris. I'm more intelligent than your learners or your listeners. Yeah. I'm better educated. My position is morally superior. I'm a more evolved being. And my position is so right, I'm justified in taking away your human right.
And now both...
It is the oldest thinking. And that is the way the left really thinks. And you can tell someone thinks that way because they say the words, hey, ends justify me. You'll also hear somebody say things like, for the greater good. That's Mr. Clinton. You'll hear Mr. Clinton say, America will get used to communism. These people are vested. They know exactly what they want and what they've done. That's justified breaking the law to get to the end.
He did say that. And both parties are to blame. Would you agree with that? I mean, they're both complicit in this.
Well, absolutely. I look at, and here's what's the funny part. I go to, I align myself more with the Tea Party guys and libertarians. I won't make it bones about it. I stand up for the Constitution. I'm a radical. You got to do it within the construct of the law. If you want to take the Second Amendment away, what you do is you propose an amendment. It goes out to the states, 3/4 of the states ratify it, and you change it. That's how you do it.
Sure.
What they're doing, even if everybody in D.C. wanted to take the Second Amendment, if all 600 of those clowns all said, we got to get rid of the Second Amendment, they have no power to do it. The only power is vested in the states. And that's what, go read, please. If you're listening, go read Article 5 of the Constitution and go read the 10th Amendment. That's exactly what they say. You can't take it, and if you want to change it, the states have to ratify it. So these guys are breaking the law, and it is both sides. Now, I believe the people on the GOP, if you were asking me what's wrong, I'd say we got to get rid of the money changers. And you guys out there with biblical background, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've got to turn away from the money, and that means after we get back in power, which I believe we can, we need to make constitutional amendments to ban corporate PAC money, Tea Party money, foreign offshore donations. The only people that should donate to these people should be your constituencies from your state. Okay. I think George Soros has bought off a good portion. I mean, how can John Cornyn show up here with $10 million a month?
And now here's the thing: we've had that happen here in Massachusetts. We've had a governor. He shows up with all sorts of money. He's running unopposed. So I mean, now who else is going up against you or going for Cornyn? Do you have any competitors also in there? And let's get to the money thing also. And I want to get into the Common Core thing in a few minutes too. But this is an interesting thing because some of the candidates that I've interviewed, stuff I've done in the past with other candidates, one of the things I uncovered is this huge money machine. In fact, not only is there a money machine trying to get elected or keeping your seat, there's also a pay-to-play system once you get elected and you are seated as a congressman or a senator. So, yeah, let's explore that. Who's your competitors? How are they doing? And yeah, let's talk about Cornyn's mysterious $10 million. Go ahead.
Okay, well, let's talk about, there are people out here opposing him. Now, I'm not a Mr. Stockton fan. I'm glad. I don't know why he's throwing it at the last minute in the Senate race from the House. You know, he has a reputation in the House, and I'm not going to comment much on Mr. Stockton. We have Blaine Snowball. He's a Tea Party guy. I'm a Tea Party guy. We have another lieutenant colonel from the Army. He's Ken Cope. He's really good. And we got Chris Mapp. These are just people that are so fed up with what they see. You know, the solution is, gosh, we have got to get the message out of who Cornyn is. Cornyn is not a stupid man. In every non-election year, he voted for every federal increase, for every spending increase, for every expanse of federal powers. He voted for the NDAA that violates your right of a speedy trial, essentially your Sixth Amendment. He even stood up and voted down the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Now, when a U.S. Senator says, I do not support the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, Rand Paul took that vote. As soon as he said that, he is now a domestic threat to the Constitution, and he should resign. You know, immediately. You just violated your own oath, and that's why I'm standing up, because I can't. My oath says I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, until I'm dead. That's what it said. So when my own senator won't stand up for it, I have to go out and educate people, because you know your senator not only voted down the Fourth Amendment, but he voted to take the right. He voted with Feinstein to fund NSA. You know, Senator Feinstein is the Senate Intelligence Committee chair. She funds all these all these programs. And what really frustrates me, this is what gets me and my military people upset. Not my military people, I'm sorry, military folks. Our military upset is that they use black protocol to hide this. Now, black protocol means you can lie. You're obligated to lie, and you can lie to Congress, you can lie to the House, you can hide the money. Black protocol is meant to protect the operator's life, not the contractor, not the program. So, you know, when our vice president stands up and goes, "Okay, you know, sir, you just violated black protocol. You should resign right now too. You just got these people killed." So these guys are clowns, and I'm furious. And so I go around the state. I'm sorry, I'm getting pretty fired up. But, you know, I don't like a man who's dishonest. Cornyn plays a very conservative, powerful, anti-Obama message during election years, but in non-election years, he's a cookiness.
Unbelievable. You sound very, very passionate. It's unbelievable. And it sounds like you've done an awful lot of homework. I can't believe that. We have the same thing here in Massachusetts. We have Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey. I mean, they both, in special elections, they're rubber stamping. They're rubber stamping everything that's going through. There's no more representation. The violation of the oath is just unbelievable. Are you familiar with the organization Oath Keepers? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We have them up here, and I've started to get into the organization there also. And it's when I was in the Coast Guard. I mean, you took the oath. We all took the oath, and I took it very seriously at the time. And when I hear it said all the time by politicians when they get sworn in, you can just tell that there's no faith, there's no belief in that. They can, you know, a lot of them are going to go in and they're just going to do whatever they're going to do. And I'm just wondering if this lack of understanding of our Constitution is starting to trickle down into general society, and that general society really doesn't understand the Constitution and doesn't understand that oath. And do you think would you agree with me on that? Do you think it's permeated not only in government, but it's in society? Nobody has a clue.
Everywhere I go, I have to ask first and mix around in the crowd and figure out how much they know about the Constitution, how much they know about our history, how much they know about separation of church and state and the letter of the Danbury Baptist. And I have to craft my speech to go, at first I have to start with a background education, because we are constitutionally becoming illiterate, and we're historically illiterate. Even worse, we have a bunch of politicians that are scientifically illiterate. I try to count myself as a scientist, and I don't understand why these clowns don't stand up and go, "Hey, solar power is never going to work," and here's why. Because they're not scientists, and the PhDs, what I found out working with PhDs is there's a lot of dishonest PhDs that are out for money. So, you know, they got, and I think solar, wind, and geothermal is purely a gimmick so that people buy the fact that the EPA can go racing through these cities and shut down coal, shut down oil, and they have a big, right now Texas is the 5th largest oil producer in the world.
Sure, yeah.
And you know, they got, the EPA is running all shut down everything we're doing. And, you know, we do very environmentally sound fracking. I saw a share the other day, said they call this what...
well, the other thing, too, is they're going to shut off our economy. I mean, they're just going to shut the place down, and what the hell are we going to do?
It's purposeful. And I think you're right. You have to back up to the historical literacy and go, you can't kill free markets and switch to a command economy if the free markets are smoking. So you first have to destroy the free markets. And right now, you know, I had a big argument yesterday with governor candidate up in Colorado. We had a big fight. I said, people are hurting. He goes, no, we're going. And he went to talk about it, and I probably should have listened to a little bit more of what he had to say, because what he's saying is that technology, information, and banking are booming, which is true. But the bottom part of that is not. Our industry and our agriculture are hurting.
And you covered this in your speeches, right? Yeah, you did. You covered that in your speeches. And speaking about that, let's get on to the education, because, again, your YouTube clips are unbelievable. And when we're done with the interview, there's always going to be links on it, and I'll channel the audience to your YouTube clips. Folks, they're absolutely amazing. You got to watch them all. Anyway, but in your clips, you talk about education and the liberal mentality of exerting control over the system. How it not only stifles education, it removes control from states and local communities. The education system has been under this metamorphosis for decades now, and we see the outcome. As children leave school and enter the real world, they are willfully ill-equipped. Plus, many of these people are parents now themselves. So now we've got dumbed-down students who are growing up and having kids of their own, going to these even more dumbed-down school systems. How bad is this decline, and how much is it perpetrating through our educational system? And are we on that never-ending downward slope now?
I tell you, you have just nailed my number one issue. You know, I go around and all the other candidates are talking about federal lawlessness and currency collapse and debt and borrowing and our economy, and I agree with all those. And then I go, educational failure and inner city decay. And I see a bunch of Republicans stop and open their eyes, and I go, I want you to hear what I'm about to say. This is really important. In the 1960s, the model of education was local control, small classrooms, community involvement, where the number one power was the principal and the PTA, parents, and the mayor. That's who educated their kids, and the sheriff. And so, under that model, we put people on the moon with slide rules. It is the number one education in the world in the 1960s, and that's both for African Americans and for whites. So, right now, we have the highest paid teachers in the world. That kind of surprises people. It also surprises them that in our cities, we're spending the most amount of money per kid of anybody in the world.
14 to 18,000.
18,000 in Boston, 15,000 in New York. Most every city here in Texas is around 15,000 to 14,000 per kid. We have 740 superintendents in Texas, all of them making six figures. Boston has a superintendent making close to 300,000. Dallas has 500,000 and 50% dropout rate. So when you look at it and they say, Reid, why is that? When I look at an educator and I go, because control kills curiosity, creativity, innovation, and determination. They go, no, that's not true. And I go, then you tell me why 50% of every teacher quits in 5 years, frustrated. It's not the teacher's fault. It's not the principal's fault. It's the system of downward flow. And when you control it, you kill it. And they go, well, all right, show me. And I go, all right, here, listen up. Here's from Mr. Brighton, Bill Brighton, in 2013, in a compiled study of what communism is. There it comes. Communism has no choice. Force, if you don't comply.
Sure.
No input in how it works. People in it hate it. Propaganda to say it's great and removal of your rights. That's communism. Now you tell me, a parent who's in the inner city, that's exactly what it looks like. They have to send their kids. In Texas, a parent cannot remove their child from a public school to go to another school, and the school will not receive attention to fix it until the school has failed for 6 years straight. And I go, that's an entire kid's education. You just ruined an entire kid. So what I tell teachers, and it's hard because I don't believe it's intentional. I think when you allow it to the PhD in education system, they believe that control and working harder at controlling more is going to solve the problem. And I keep saying, look, you're exactly what's destroying our cities, because the highest taxation rate is caused by education. You guys want more money, but you're taxing people out of their homes. You're making poverty in the cities. It's a self-looking ice cream cone. And it's terrible. So I just tell them, here's how you fix it. Local control. Change the mission statement to assist the parents in preparing that kid. Now invest yourself that the principal is the number one power. Give him the money and the resources. Cut that classroom size down to 10 to 15.
Yeah, you make a great point when you talk about the size of the classrooms, is that there's a certain psychological dysfunction that occurs. I was watching one of your YouTube clips, and if the class is like over 25 kids or 30 kids, there's a tendency for things to get a little out of control. Whereas with a smaller class, not only can you give the kids more attention, there's a little bit more control over the kids. Am I correct on that?
Well, social psychology says exactly what you just said, Chris. When you get over 15, you lose, it's called anonymity, and then it goes into you have propensity for evil in crowds. So there was a pretty smart entity about 2,000 years ago that said, hey, 12 is about right. And, I think when we start studying these things, we realize, he's the creator of this, and he understood that 12 worked perfect. Mm-hmm. And so I teach a small physics co-op of 6 kids. I don't have any money. I just teach them on a chalkboard, and I have a 13-year-old kid operating at sophomore level college because I can change and I have a relationship with him. And he comes in and talks, and we boost it up, and other people you spend more time with. But we are killing our teachers because we don't let them teach. And even the new generation doesn't learn the way the old generation did. No. The traditional, line them up, read it, visualize it, test it. These kids today, it's almost exactly opposite. With all the three-dimensional interactive and graphics, they actually have to see it first, then talk about it more circularly. The modern classroom should be in circles and having people talking with each other, having the laptops open, let them investigate.
It sounds like there's no three-dimensional thinking in there.
They're just gonna. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm interrupting you.
That's okay, because we gotta go on. I want to talk a lot. In 1970, all right, well, these are the 3 laws, basically, which bans Common Core, but when does our government ever follow their own laws? In 1970, the Education Provisions Act specifically states that no provision of any applicable program shall be construed to authorize or to exercise any direction, supervision, or control over the curriculum program of instruction. And this law was also reinforced in 79, and they basically reinforced what was just said. And in 1994, the UN mandate started to come into play, and part of the law that was passed there was that the United States isn't to fund any of the UNESCO operations. Now, when the Common Core, not the Common Core, but the law, from what I found, actually goes even further, back to 1965, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the ESEA, No Child Left Behind, is what it's now called. It's in its 9th, what it says here from the Washington Post, it's in its 9th inculcation. So it's basically the same law, only Chapter 9. It intruded the federal government into this traditionally state and local responsibility. It said that nothing in this act shall authorize any federal official to mandate, direct, or control a state's local educational agency or school's curriculum. So this goes back, there's not only the 3, there's this one from 1965. And it's interesting that you said that back in the 1960s, we put people on the moon with a slide rule. And in 69, this law comes out. It's language specifically in states that the federal government cannot intervene. It is still a local and state operation. How is it that these people are able to get away with it? And I want to back this up, that even some of the states, even though it's a state and local thing, we have a lot of state agencies, we have a lot of local teachers unions who are saying, yeah, we want to adopt Common Core. Take it from there.
The reason that they're able to implement these laws and reach across these state lines is because they tag it into their equity, the 14th Amendment, that says equal protection. So what they did in the 60s, they went and said, look, we do have a terrible devastation in investment in infrastructure between our African-American schools, our Hispanic schools, and our white schools. The states are not going to fix it. That is why they implemented the laws, and that is why they went forward to do it. And in most of the cases, to be honest with you, if you were to look at most ultra-liberals, you have some of them are really hell-bent on causing damage and causing things to be destroyed. Mm-hmm. Most of them think they're will not listen to a word of anyone else until they're a PhD also in education. So it's a systems problem. And so when they centralize control, they've actually killed it and made it so that they need to have more money to fix it. So it's kind of like make yourself the problem and make yourself the solution. What we have to do is we have to do exactly what we were talking about earlier. The states need to nullify. And that means that the Attorney General with the governor and the State Department of Education nullifies federal oversight. Now, we have to look at what the U.S. Department of Education's objectives are. They want to federalize and run everything.
Yes. Yes.
They believe from that central area they can run it because they think that communism actually works and it's better. Although the historical precept is it will kill the four things that made us great: curiosity, creativity, innovation, and determination. And that's the fundamental of education. If you look at what homework and testing just kill kids' desire to learn, and that's exactly what we've done to these kids. We have kids that think it's prison, and they shouldn't want to go. And you can't make people desire education from D.C. Now, the U.S. Department of Education, not a dime. Well, I'd say, okay, a dime. Maybe a dime makes it out of that entire budget into a classroom.
Right.
Most of that money flows to universities for grants to study.
Yeah.
Now, here's the real deceit. This is where I get the people and I go, do you understand the research database is not open for you to read, even though you paid for it? Through taxation and tuition, the PhD research database, you cannot pull up global warming study and read yourself. You cannot pull up why, electric solar cells are stupid. You can't read it because they don't want you to read it. And it's a big monopoly. And so one of the things I'm pushing for in Texas is public funded, public active research. I should be able to read. When you're telling me that there's a gay gene, which there really isn't, I should be able to go read your study and determine for myself whether you're credible or not.
Really?
So, yeah, right now you cannot read it. If there's a study right now that says men and women, for the last 20 years, men and women's brains are different. We've known it for 20 years. We've studied it for 20 years. Harvard Medical says they're so different. There's a female brain and a male brain. When you try to even Google that up and read that study, you can't get to it. And it's a scam. What it does is they do the research. They publish it in these journals. The journals then turn around and make money on the research that you paid for, but you can't read it. And so that's really what the U.S. Department of Education is doing. And I guarantee you they are not funding things such as intelligent design research. They're not funding things such as local divestment of education and productivity. That's why
I thought the educational system was supposed to be tolerant of all viewpoints and types of understanding.
Right now, I believe the educational system is designed to support the educational system. If you were to ask me, I think it's self-looking ice cream though. And it is the number one taxation rate. What people taxed out of our homes, those people are wasting money and failing. So, I look at people in education and I go, look, it's a pass.
Yeah, Massachusetts.
73% of people are dropping out of Detroit. 70%, all across, 50% out of every high school in Texas drop out. That's a pass.
I think you had a Boston figure there. What was the Boston figure?
Oh yeah, Boston was actually they spent $18,000. The highest paid per year is $18,000 per kid in Boston, and they drop out 56%.
56%.
So my point to you guys is, hey, if you're going to work harder and harder and spend more and more of what you're already doing, you expect to get more of what you already got.
All right. I want to get into a different part also of education. Something that scares me. Something I've had personal experience with, and I've been talking to other parents. And because I'm involved politically here with the Tea Party, and I do my stuff around town, I've been to school committee meetings and board meetings for the education department here. And not only are they all hell-bent on this Common Core thing, but one of the things that's disturbing me, and perhaps you can allude on this, is schools are now routinely involved in your private family issues, or anything that goes on privately at home. The school is somehow linked to or involved in. And let me give you a couple examples here. There was a case, it was in the news a little while ago, 2 kids were playing with a pellet gun on their front lawn waiting for the bus. They heard the bus coming, they threw the pellet guns down, they ran to the bus. Turns out somebody told on the kids, and these kids were suspended. Now, these kids are playing on their own front lawn. Now, here in Worcester, we have a problem that if your child is involved in an altercation, basically a fight, and it involves another student from the school or even a student from one of the other local schools. This is what I've also found out, that the school now can suspend the child or somehow follow through on it, even though that this fight occurred like 2 miles away from school on a Sunday afternoon and has absolutely nothing to do with the school. What does this mean for our families? What does this mean once the new UN mandates start kicking into play? I mean, they've got a whole different take on, you talked about control. But what does this mean for our families? And as more and more of this gets going, I mean, we're basically going to lose our children, aren't we?
I think you nailed on the big picture. Is back to that mentality that they are self-justified, that they know they're so right that they can take away your human rights. They want to take away your parental rights too. And what they mean is this: if you're teaching your child that Jesus was born, you're worshiping some sky fairy, and we need to get rid of that. Even though you go scientifically back to these people and you go, hey, DNA kills evolution. Microbiology crushes Darwinism. It's over. All but the gnashing of teeth. But you can't penetrate these people because they are truly violent. And so it is a fight, it's a legal fight. And you're absolutely right when you touched on the United Nations and Sustainable Development, or Cand.1. Not only do they want your parental rights out of the way, and this is the radical gay and lesbian agenda too. Mm-hmm. They have access to your kids that you cannot say no. And I'm going to speak real quickly about this. My position on the gay and lesbian agenda is simple. What you do in the privacy of your own bedroom as two consenting adults is your business. When you step out of that and you start to impact other people's lives and their schooling and their traditions and their institutions and their education,
sure,
you are hurting other people. It's immoral and it needs to be illegal. And what I say to this is the history of these people wanting your kid is also research consistent. How you generate and how the gay and lesbian lifestyle has always been permeated, and it happened to me as a kid, so I have every right to talk about it. You're recruited young by an older boy. And my daughter was recruited by an older girl. And how they do it is they sexually activate you early, they orient you for the lifestyle, and keep you there, and then you have to turn away from it. And so the agenda is very simple. They will even justify trying to turn the kids into homosexuals and lesbians for population control.
In fact, one of the things that happened here in Massachusetts, and it's on my YouTube page, what happened, how, gay marriage has affected Massachusetts. Almost immediately, and I mean almost, it's like they had the flyers and everything ready on the press, ready to go. Almost immediately, once the gay marriage law went through here in Massachusetts, already schools were getting pamphlets on how to re-educate the children, certain things, mommy and daddy have to be changed to 2 mummies, 2 daddies. They put down all these rules and regulations that the schools have to go by. Even our marriage license here in Massachusetts, it used to say, I think, the man or the woman or the husband and the wife. Now it says partner A and partner B. Right. So immediately this is all going, and you're right. What 2 people do, that's their own private business. You're consenting adults. You're right. Once you step outside into the public, you still have your rights, but don't be pushing your agenda. That's what they've done, is the agenda has now been pushed. Now, getting back to what you said about inculcating the youth, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. This is my show. I think there's a little bit of pedophilia going on there, where they're so eager to get the young people inculcated into homosexuality. And that's just my opinion on that.
It's not just an opinion, Chris. It's scientifically accurate. It's research accurate. That is the way that the homosexual lifestyle has been perpetrated for thousands of years. They're not stupid people. They know how it is. I mean, and the radical, you've got NAMBLA that says best before 8 or it's too late. They're not dumb. And you're not born gay. I'm sorry, that's just, there's no scientific evidence for that whatsoever. Actually, you're born gender, male and female, and you're inculcated into it. So, in my scientific approach is evolution, which I think is scientifically stupid. Evolution says you're not going to promulgate, and evolution is selecting you for extinction, and God says not to do it. So what we need to tell these people is you're hurting us. And we need to appeal to them on the language that they understand, and that's emotion. The liberal mind is emotion that drives their philosophy, that puts a filter on their facts. So if you approach it with facts, you're not going to penetrate. You have to approach it with the emotion first. You are hurting my children. You're hurting me. When you say gay marriage, it hurts my heart. It causes me pain. And now they kind of sit back going, what do you mean? And so you have to explain it in the language that they get. You know, marriage is a 6,000-year-old religious institution. The state only got involved because of immoral conduct of the people that were divorcing each other.
Right, I think it had something to do with syphilis. There was a syphilis epidemic or something going on, and so the government came in, made you get a blood test, all that other stuff, and that was way back, early in the 20th century.
Right. But I think what you're pointing on is there is an evil part of that agenda, and that is to get to your kids. And don't think that there's not a next. So anytime I see a gay and lesbian thing, I explain to them, what's your next? Tell me what you're going to do after this. And then they show, well, we're going to do recruitment on the college campuses. We're going to do an outreach mission for your children. You know, and I go, okay, I oppose you now. And here's why I oppose you. Because you're hurting me, and you're hurting my daughter.
And I don't understand why they have to do all this outreach and this. I mean, when the civil rights went through in the 60s, to some degree you saw a promotion of the black community, naturally. The black colleges, you know, there was more removal of barriers, even in the military, when you were in the military. So there were a lot of things that moved forward. But with the gay agenda, it seems like they're going to Madison Avenue and they're looking for the biggest advertisement, and they're going to go out there and they're going to push this lifestyle. They're in every parade. They're all over the place. And it's like, okay, guys, we get it. All right, fine. Can we get on with life now? I mean, it's sickening. It's sickening from the standpoint of they've adopted this. We want you to buy into this. We want you to just adopt this entire mentality. You didn't see that with the civil rights. Afterwards, things just moved and equal rights just kind of, over time, worked themselves out. This seems like a big media blitz.
I think you're right, and I think there's two things that are revealing in that. One is you know, we even went back to those Christians and said, hey, we get it, we understand, you're living with your partner, and you just want to get medical care for the guy that you've devoted your life to. Okay, fine. Why don't we make it a one-page document in Texas? We said, here, why don't we do something like this? We understand that there are some valid complaints. This is the man you divided your life to. Okay, I don't agree with the lifestyle. I think it's a parts problem, but okay. That's between you and God and the privacy of the bedroom. Why don't we just call it domestic union, and you can leave the marriage alone? And every single person here in Texas rejected and rebelled against it in the gay community. And that's really, we're giving you exactly what you said you wanted, and that was the ability to get health care and benefits and death benefits for your partner. And so that reveals what the real agenda is, and that is to recruit. They know they have to recruit to sustain. And the second one is to mock God. And I'm going to say that straight up. When the guy comes up to me and goes, I want gay marriage, and I go, I'll give you domestic union. They go, no, I want gay marriage. And I go, you want to mock God, and the God's not going to be mocked. You know? And so and then they do the Sky Fairy thing, and I go, hey, you know, I'm sorry, I find typically I can't hang with you. You know, I can't agree with you. I think I was.
Yeah, they're so tolerant. They're so tolerant of somebody else's lifestyle, somebody else's belief system. They're so tolerant of that. Getting me back to what is it in this mentality? What causes these people to have this dystopian view of the way life should be? It's bizarre. Does it? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You know, I want to ask you first. Let me ask you a question. Is when you mean for them trying to force their social views in society on us? Is that the question you're asking? Are you talking they as in the left, or they as in the radical LGBT movement?
Actually, the left, and actually LGBT is they're under that. The progressives, everybody.
Right.
It's in our schools. It's in our advertisements. It's in the television shows we watch. It's in the way certain information has been rewritten. If you look at an encyclopedia, and I still have encyclopedias from back in the 90s and stuff, and everyone says, oh, get rid of them. It's like, what? You mean the stuff that happened up until 1998 did not happen? I can't keep these just for the information. And when I read stuff and I look at the old books, quite literally an old book, and then I go on Wikipedia or Google or some other thing, everything's rewritten. Everything is rewritten. There's a modicum of the history there, but a lot of it's been rewritten, and it's all been made to be palatable. It's all been made to be more accepting, and anything that we've done as Americans or anybody that, as far as our founders are concerned, like you said, George Washington was a slave-owning racist. Everything has been rewritten so that, like you said, they can get that control over us. Go ahead. I know I was getting off on a tangent.
Nope, you nailed it. Actually, it's not fancy. You nailed it right on the heart. Here's what they think, and this is what I sort of watch them talk about their theories. I can talk post-colonial, postmodern, three ways of feminism, all the legal terms, but here's the way they really think. America, in only 250 years, has become the most economically powerful, successful country in the history of the world for two major reasons. One, the central power of government may not take control unless the states yield it. And two, our inalienable Bill of Rights that is unleashed. Curiosity, creativity, innovation, determination. 2%, we only have 2% of the workforce, yet we provide 23% of everything the rest of the world consumes, food, services, planes, trains, automobiles, come from us. And they hate us for that. And this is what I mean. The liberal mind, if you're rich, you've hurt somebody else to get it. And in the worldview, we are extraordinarily wealthy, and we have impoverished the rest of the world to get it. So when you hear people like Michelle Obama say, hey, we just need to carve the pie up so there's more slices, we go, why don't you just get out of the way and let's make more pie?
That's right.
When I go out to West Texas, I started my business in Austin. I go to West Texas and brush off and find some marble and carve up some marble and make a marble factory. I'm paying for cars and colleges and houses and retirement funds. They don't see that. What they see is I'm making people poor. So in their mind, this is really what they think. America must diminish so that the world may increase.
And it's been said.
So
it's been said by Obama.
That's exactly what Obama is, and that's what Valerie Jarrett is, and that's what George Soros is, that's what the globalists are. They don't see that actually, 50 of the world's top charities from Forbes magazine are here in America. 60% of all charitable contributions come from us.
Yeah.
We feed, supply, 62% of all health and wealth inventions come from us. So they see that as a failure, not a success. And truly, they want to dump us. If everyone in the world is not the same playing field, they failed in their mission. And so that's why they have to control it. That's where the philosophy comes from. They're so right. The ends justify the means, and they are going to do it. And that's the world globalists do. That's what Agenda 21 says. Not only are they going to take your rights, they're going to take your property, your car, your production, your oil, for the greater good. And when you hear someone say for the greater good, they're going to lie, cheat, steal, and that's Mrs. Clinton right there. When she says, I want to do this for the greater good. Watch your pocketbook, watch your Constitution, watch your kids.
So now we have, like you just said, we're the largest charitable nation. Our foreign aid is unbelievably generous, I think. We have 42% of our nation working to support the other 58% that is not working. Now, if you take that and you couple that with the fact that we're giving so much money away to other nations, we are a socialist welfare country, aren't we?
I actually had my friend, who's also running here, stand up, and he said, we're becoming a socialist nation. I pulled him aside. I said, sir, we are a socialist nation.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you mean? And I go, look, Karl Marx said, when the gifts and talents of the few support the needs of the many, that's socialism. And when the government does that, it's not charity, then it's socialism. In my opinion, I believe the government is intentionally causing the poverty so that they can become the solution. And people go, what do you mean? I go look at your city. Every city is blue. And the Environmental Protection Agency, in my opinion, the best foreign aid is the radical EPA. I mean, we've shut down Pittsburgh Steel, Colorado Copper, Washington Timber, California Gold. We shut those places down and we shipped them overseas. By the way, it's the same companies that used to do it here. It's the same. In China, it's the Carnegie method that was started in Pittsburgh. It was in their steel factory. 72% of all power in China is coal. So if we ship it overseas, we borrow money from them, they pollute more. We pay for the unemployment and welfare here, which requires us to borrow money to do it, which then the interest goes back to the Fed, which is the banks, which is the same corporation that did it in the first place. It's beautiful. I mean, it's wickedly evil, but it's beautiful.
Reid,
you and I we couldn't design a system. If you and I would sit down for years, we could not design a more intricate way to destroy a country.
it wasn't thought up overnight. I mean, this itself has taken years. It's taken decades. I mean, the people who are running everything now, I mean, it was their fathers and their uncles and stuff who started everything back at the turn of the century, didn't they?
Yes, and actually, who was it? Rockefeller, I think, gave $1 million back in 1910, which was a lot of money back then. And he said, I want you to turn this country into a communist country, socialist objective. And when the Supreme Court Justice Keegan stands up and holds the Constitution in her hand and goes, this is not the model to follow. Well, man, you should be impeached and removed right now. I mean, she says we need to follow a socialist model. And I go, you just violated your oath. And that's, I love Mark Levin, and I love his liberty amendments. One of my amendments is make criminality be a crime for you to violate your oath of office.
Yeah, that should be. That is a serious thing. Especially if especially if you have all the power. To do it as an enlisted officer or an enlisted man or whatever your situation is, and anytime there's war, there's always something that happens. And it's unfortunate, there's always something that happens. Somebody gets arrested, they committed a crime, or look at Abu Ghraib. There are a few other incidences in Afghanistan. And they're charged. They're imprisoned, and they lose all they lose everything that they were in the military, and they serve their time. But government officials, even police officers, sometimes you get a lot of police officers, they get suspended, they might get fired, some maybe see trial, but the overwhelming violence in our inner city paramilitary police force that we have now is incredible. It's growing. It's almost in every state, every county of every state. It's everywhere across the country. 50,000 SWAT raids a year, plus or minus. Why? Why do we need 50,000 of them? Why do we need the USDA armed to the teeth with, heavy armor and heavy vehicles? I don't understand.
Why does the IRS need 9mm guns?
That's exactly. Now, these people are violating their oath, but nothing's going to happen to them. They'll still get their retirement, their pension. They'll still get everything. Look at Lerner. She stepped down. She admitted wrong. I mean, she was complicit in that crime in the IRS, but yet, no, she stepped aside. She still gets her pension. She still gets everything. It's unbelievable. There's no justice that way.
Well, and part of this is education, truly. In the House, you go to the House member and you go, do you understand that the ACA is illegal because it originated in the Senate? And they look at you and go, what do you mean? And I go, hey, all referendums don't have to originate in the House.
That's right.
So right now, you guys need to remove the power of this illegal ACA. And when you educate someone in the House, their eyes kind of open up. And then you look at them and go, do you know that you in the House are the only body that has the power to fire somebody without a legal proceeding? Do you know that?
That's right.
And they don't. And believe this, we got to take low-hanging fruit and move back to legality, and that is the House should have immediately removed and impeached the IRS lady when she goes, I did nothing wrong, take the case fired. And to the enlisted folks out here, I want to apologize to you all. I hate different thanks for different ranks. General Petraeus, Vice President, I recall him to active duty court martial and take 3 stars, $100,000 fine in 6 months. And you allow your mistress, who does not have a security clearance, to see classified information.
Yeah.
And you committed adultery. And I look at the NSA chief and I go, you lied to Congress. Why are you not court-martial? They call him back to duty, court-martial, and take 2 stars, $100,000, 6 months. And when our own 4-star general, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said, quote, there wasn't no stand-down order. Well, you're right, General. There wasn't the word stand down. There was the words, do not execute your primary mission. I'm re-rolling you into this mission. Well, that means don't go. So, it frustrates me when you have to go to your 4-star generals and go, General, sir, a lie is an intentional act to deceive on this leave. And this is not a black program. You do not have authorization to lie. You lie to Congress. That's 2 stars, 100,000, 6 months. And we got to step from the top.
Ladies and gentlemen, my great guest calling all the way from Texas, Reasor, the Republican senatorial candidate, going after John Cornyn. You are coming back on the show for sure. That was unbelievable. Maybe we could talk more about international affairs, even though we dabbled into it a little bit this afternoon. Reid, give a website, any information you want to give to my audience, and again, I'll post it all up on the clip. So go ahead.
Chris, this is a great show. And if people ask me all the time, what can you do? And I say, do what you can do. First of all is to get educated. And I recommend Associated Press. Go to drudgereport.com if you're listening. This is just a guy that's been doing this for 25 years. He grabs AP stories and throws them up for your lead. That's all he does. There's no editorializing. Secondly, you can do is find a candidate you can back. My name is Reasor, R-E-A-S-O-R. You can find me on Facebook as Colonel Reasor for U.S. Senate, or you can find me on the internet at www.reasor for U.S. Senate. Back that person you can, and then educate other people on what's happening. The first thing we have to do right now is get our state nullified, and that means find an attorney general that has some guts. Go talk to your state representative, get these speaks fired up and going, look, the ACA violates my Fourth Amendment rights. I would like for you to stop having my medical record. You know, every one of you veterans right now, your medical records can be seen by every college student who wants to do a study. We've got to nullify that. So people like you, Chris, right now, and other folks talking and writing up for knowledge, we've got to get off of this mainstream media, ABC, CBS, NBC, and MSNBC. They're about to take forward these away from them.
Now, how's your coverage? In Texas, how are you starting? I know it's still kind of early, but is there coverage going on for you and, you know, in the local news at least down there?
Absolutely. And what we got is, I love it when Boehner and these guys say we need to kill the Tea Party. Well, there is no party structure. There's no corporate structure. It's just people. Yeah. Just people that get together like this show and talk to each other, and then they get involved in local politics and go, hey, look, we're taxing our people out of our homes. We need to stop that. So the coverage comes as the events happen. And right now, our number one objective between Stonewall, Stockman, myself, Chris Knapp, and Kim is to force the runoff.
Okay.
And I think when you have a big city Republican making, he's pushing for the vice presidency, and he gets a Tea Party challenge of forcing a runoff, that's going to happen March 4th. As soon as that happens, not only will we have media down here, we'll have international media looking at how did you lose. Right now, John Cornyn's below 50%, which in Texas will force a runoff. So when you force a runoff, they take the number one guy and the number two guy. And I don't really care who it is, And I want to tell people, I tell people, if you're not going to vote for me, find someone who's on what you can vote for. But force the narrative into the public so we can expose it. This guy voted down before it's not right. This guy's a big government guy. This guy's not standing up against Holder, who arrested newspaper reporters. This hasn't been a violation of the first,
This is true.
We can take it back. But we've got to have people like you doing it. And I really appreciate your time, appreciate a great show. And you people out there listening, blessings on you and blessings on us. We can do it.
Thanks, Reid. Thanks a lot. And I'll talk to you on the flip side, and we'll get you booked in for another show. Thanks, buddy. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Oh, there you go, folks. Texas. What a guy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This man has his stuff, like they say in the military, he has his proverbial you-know-what wired. He really does. Reid Reasor calling in from Texas, Republican senatorial candidate. I'm Christopher Bader. This is the Meat and Potato Show. God bless.